Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. Okay, today I'm here to talk about the Charlotte Hornets. Give you a rundown of who's on the team, did a little homework on their rookies, and then we'll send you on your way. All right, so this is what we got. The first name I want to mention here in regards to the Charlotte Hornets is Michael Jordan. Why? Because he owns the team, and you don't talk about the Charlotte Hornets without mentioning Michael Jordan. Obviously, he has had very little success at this time thus far, putting together a team. He's had some bad draft picks, things like that, some bad breaks with players and stuff like that. But over the last couple of years, they've been putting together a pretty good team. Had a little bit of a logjam at the guard position last year. They're kind of carrying that over a little bit, but they kind of straightened it out just the same. You'll see what I mean by that. But what they have this year is just a team full of guys that can leap and shoot. Lots of leapers, lots of shooters, and then one of the best facilitators, young facilitators in basketball. So we'll talk about it right here. First name up is in regards to their roster is LaMelo Ball, one of the best facilitators in basketball already, in my opinion. I don't think there's a whole lot this kid cannot do. Everybody who knows of me knows that I'm a fan of his family and of how well those players have come along in developing, and I'm excited to see what Melo's going to do in year two. Obviously, this is somebody who can shoot the ball, can facilitate once again, has some good defensive intangibles, just a fantastic field player. Doesn't really have too many weaknesses at all. It's going to have to continue to put on strength, continue to work on his conditioning, because he did have that injury with his wrist that set him out for the remainder of his rookie season, or for a good portion of it, rather. But this is somebody who ultimately won Rookie of the Year, and well deserved, because at the end of the day, this is going to be the face of this Charlotte Hornet team and one of the faces of the entire NBA, in my opinion. So, next name we want to kind of move on, try to speed up a little bit, is going to be Gordon Hayward. Now, Gordon Hayward is a player who's been around for a while now, man. He's started his career in Utah, had an all-star caliber career there, moved on to Boston, had that freak injury where he broke his leg. I think he broke his ankle, to be exact. Had to get rehab for that for a whole year. Came back with Boston, kind of threw their whole rotation off or whatever. Moved on from there, signed a huge deal with the Charlotte Hornets, and has been a really, really solid star player for the team. You know, who's kind of settled some things down, made it so that LaMelo Ball's transitioning from being a young rookie to someone who won Rookie of the Year was easy, because he had Gordon Hayward there to kind of just get some easy buckets, make some good jump shots, keep the defense honest, and do all of the things that Gordon Hayward does in terms of facilitating the basketball and things like that. So Gordon Hayward is a star player who's kind of just going to be moving, in my opinion, into a complementary role and letting some of the guys around this team to take on bigger roles, because they have some guys that are going to be definitely doing that. I'm not saying that he's not going to play his load of minutes, but what I'm saying is I have my doubts about whether or not he'll be featured the majority of the time. I think they'll lean on him a lot during certain points in time, particularly down the stretch of basketball games when they need closing. He'll be one of the guys that they look to close basketball games and win them for them. But overall, I think the gist of what his role will be is to just accompany the young fellas and let them run. This is a team that I think is going to have some of the best highlights of the entire year. And one of the reasons why that is going to be the case is because of the next name on this list. And that person's name is Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges of the Charlotte Hornets. A player who's just simply, like a lot of players around the league, has been waiting for someone to come along and make him better. A player who you're not looking to create for himself, but if you get him the right point guard, look out. And that's exactly what happened last year. He got the right point guard, and now he's one of the best high fly acts in all of basketball. He already was. You've seen his highlights all over the league. He's just simply one of the best and explosive leapers the game has probably ever seen. And he's only getting better. He's now starting to let his game kind of come to him a little bit. He's grown some, put on some weight, gotten better. I think this is year 4 or something like that. And he's ready to rock. I'm telling you, that's a player I'm looking to make a big jump this year. And he's going to be very much looked to do more of the same, continue to electrify the crowd and defend. Definitely defend. So next name up, another young player that they've had for a little bit, P.J. Washington. Now we know P.J. Washington is a player who can shoot the three, cut and dry. You know for a fact he's a stretch four with a lot of talent. He's not just a guy who you want parking it behind the three-point line and trotting down the other way. No, sir. This is a rebounder. This is also another explosive player that they have in their lineup who can catch lobs, block shots, rebound at a high level, score at a high level. And he's only getting better. It's still very early for P.J. Washington. If I'm not mistaken, he's either entering year 3 or year 4. But he's already shown us that he's one of the more consistent power forwards out there. And if you continue to give him opportunities at the 4 and the 5, he'll continue to play well. No question about it. This is somebody that the Charlotte Hornets are eventually going to have to pay some money. And for now, he's just going to continue to show us why he is deserving. And I expect him to have a very, very good year. Next up, Terry Rozier. Now, Terry Rozier is a fantastic two-guard who's been waiting for his opportunity. Two-guard, one-guard. He can play the 1-2. And he's been waiting for his opportunity to show that he's a star in this league. And kind of paid his dues to the utmost with the Boston Celtics, playing behind some of everybody, waiting for his opportunity. But he did, when given opportunities with guys coming in and out of the lineup, show that he's a big-time player and was able to carve out a real role on a playoff team with that Boston Celtics squad. That landed him here in Charlotte. He just signed a big deal with them. I'm not sure what it was, but I know I reported on it, wrote it down, and told you all about it. Go check out my old video on that situation. But he is now going to be long-term, probably playing in the starting two-guard position, even though they have some guys who are going to be pushing him for that, and he can also play the 1, as I said. So I'm looking for Terry Rozier to continue doing more of the same. He's a cold-blooded killer, and he's not the only one they have, but he's a cold-blooded killer who's going to be shooting the ball at a high clip, continuing to be as aggressive as he always has been, 3-level scorer. Just one of the more underrated players in this league who's finally going to have a real opportunity to stretch his legs, and I think have a real starting role in this league from here on out. Last year, that was I think he started last year too, if I'm not mistaken, but I think it was much more, as I said, a logjam at the point guard position with Ball, Graham, and himself kind of in rotation. It was a bit of a, it was a strain to see how that kind of turned out. In my opinion, I sounded off about it because it was just a frustrating thing for me that I see a lot in the league. Just a bunch of guards trying to compete with one another. Now, unfortunately, they kind of do have that to a degree this year, but I think those guys kind of settle into better roles this season. Now you know for a fact Terry's going to be the starting two guard, so I think he'll get his full spectrum of minutes in that role, and I think ultimately he's going to be somebody who's probably going to be playing for an all-star appearance this year. I think it's possible. He's been teetering on that type of production for a while. One of the more consistent players last year, had a really, really big-time season last year, and that's why they paid him. So at this point, it's just about building upon that, and I think the opportunity may be there. All right, next name up, Kelly Oubre Jr. Kelly Oubre Jr. we know has played with the Golden State Warriors, played with the Phoenix Suns where he really broke out, and of course we've also seen him kind of develop in Washington with John Wall and Bradley Beal. Just a guy you knew was going to eventually put it all together. You knew he would. He was with that team with Washington. You saw glimpses of him being able to be an explosive athlete, somebody who could score, shoot the ball some, do things like that. But he was never really consistent at that time. He was just a kid, youngster, But as he developed, he found himself in Phoenix. Took off. Had a heck of a season in Phoenix. Raised his percentages and his numbers just about every category you can think of. And ultimately made himself somebody that teams would really, really want in this league. Now, I thought Phoenix would hold on to him. They did indeed move him on. I think, if not mistaken, to create cap space for Chris Paul. So that was reasonable. And he ended up in Golden State. Started off really cold there. But ended up putting together a really good season with them ultimately in the end as well. So I think this is a fresh start for him. Obviously a new spot. He's going to be looked at as somebody who I think has started the 3, although they have a lot of competition there, so I don't know how that's going to work. Maybe he comes up first guy off the bench. I don't know. But I don't think it'll matter as much because he's going to get his 30-plus minutes a game, in my opinion, on this roster. He's going to be somebody who you see on the floor with LaMelo and PJ and and Miles Bridges quite a bit. Gordon Hayward. I mean, they have more than enough starters on this team is essentially what I'm telling you. Just it's only 5 spots, so somebody's gonna have to be their 6th man, and it may be Kelly Oubre Jr. But that's a good problem. That's a very good problem because they do have balance, multiple positional players, including himself, who they really don't have to worry about settling into just one spot. They can do all kinds of different things with their lineup. Very, very versatile lineup here. So, I'm not one who's going to be looking at this particular team and says, okay, they need to solidify their lineup. No, if anything, I just want to see a good combination of players on the floor at all times because they have the ability to put that on the floor. Kelly Oubre is going to help. He's a defensive player, obviously athletic, going to be great in the open court. He's going to dunk on people's heads, and he's going to create opportunities to be very, very effective out there as a weapon for LaMelo Ball. No question about it. Let's see. Next name up, Mason Plumlee. Now, Mason Plumlee is a center. Played for the Detroit Pistons last year. Kind of started his career with the Brooklyn Nets. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was at Denver for a little while, where he really made a name for himself as a facilitator. And the thing about him is that makes him special is just that. You can put him on the floor when you don't have someone who can facilitate the basketball, when you don't have a pass first player, and he can help you with that a great deal. I've seen him do it quite a bit. He's just one of the more underrated passers from a different position other than the point guard position. So that's what stands out about him for me. He's also ultra athletic. Even though I don't think he plays as much above the rim as he did as a rookie, but in the past, he was one of the dudes that jumped completely out of the gym. I'm pretty sure he can still catch lobs for LaMelo without any problem whatsoever. So that's going to be a very exciting opportunity for him to not only keep his normal role as a assistant facilitator, but also I think this is going to up his numbers just from the simple fact he's going to be playing with LaMelo. And I think even though I've become more familiar with their centers, and I think they have more depth at their center position than I initially thought before doing my homework, I still think there will be opportunities for him to play a lot of center for this team. So, it's about the youth movement with Charlotte at the end of the day, but I expect him to have a pretty good role. All right, next name up is Jalen McDaniels. Now, you guys have heard me talk about the McDaniels dudes for a while. Power forwards. If I'm not mistaken, they're brothers, but I actually never looked that up. But they pretty much came out the same year, pretty much broke out at the same time. One of them played for Minnesota, the other one plays for Charlotte, and they're both really good. And that's what it really comes down to. You have a McDaniels on the team, you have an upside player who could play that 4 spot. I wish I would have did a little homework on him to tell you a little more about him in this particular video, but I just did. He was not one of the players I looked up, unfortunately, but I've talked about him a lot, in the past, him and the other McDaniels with Minnesota. I just think that you really are looking at players who have an upside in this league that's better than what you're seeing now. So, if anything, I can say that much. And I think he's going to be a pretty good player for this team. He kind of broke out last year, if I'm not mistaken. He was a rookie last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think they both were. And he did what he was supposed to do with the minutes that he had, That's what it really came down to. You can say that about both of those McDaniels dudes. So, that's what I can say for that. Next up, we got Vernon Carey Jr. Vernon Carey Jr. was a center that they picked up last year, I think in the middle of the first round, end of the first round. A guy they have with a lot of upside at that center position. It's going to be kind of hard for him to develop into a starting center, in my opinion, early on. But eventually, I'm sure they're going to try to push him into position to take that role for them. That's what I got for Vernon Carey. That's another player I'd love to look up and learn more about. Cody Martin. And some of y'all may remember Caleb Martin as well. Unfortunately, his bro they are twins, but one of them got waived earlier in the year, in last month actually. But yeah, Cody's still with the team, known as a stretch shooter. I saw a lot of good out of both of those guys, to be completely honest with you. Both of them Martin twins can shoot it, and they are both athletic, and they both zip around the floor real fast from what I saw. So I don't know a whole lot about those players, but in the small sample sizes I saw from the Martin twins, they should both be in the NBA right now. Cody is with the Charlotte Hornets, and we'll move along here. Next up, Ish Smith. Ish Smith is a player that I like a lot. I think he's in a role that's comfortable for him as like the third string point guard on various teams that he's been a part of. And he usually doesn't take on a huge load, but when he does come in, usually for someone who's injured, he'll play backup point guard for an injured star or something like that. he comes in and he does his job. Great handle, very aggressive player, scorer. Again, not somebody you're going to ask to do too much, not somebody you're going to see on the floor a whole lot of the time. But when you do see him, he makes his presence felt each and every time. I don't think I've seen him play poorly before. I just understand that he just isn't asked to do a whole lot. And that's kind of where he is in his career. It's not a knock on him. Just some players, they just find themselves in situations where they're comfortable being role players and they're damn good at it. He's one of them. So I kind of lost my place here. You guys give me half a second. Here we go. So what I want to do is now talk about a few of the rookies that they've drafted very highly in the draft this year. So the first guy we're going to mention is James Bouknight. Now, Bouknight was a guy who in the summer league unfortunately got a bad rap because he's an aggressive shoot-first player. And in the summer league, as we know for the last couple of years, it's been this way. It's about the Ball brothers. If one of them is involved, the summer league is about them, period. And in this case, you got Jello Ball, who's trying to fight for a position. He was playing well in the summer league, and he just wasn't getting the minutes. There were reports of players on the team not wanting to pass the ball to Jello, etc. But at the end of the day, it was James Bouknight who was the one that ended up looking as bad because of how his game is in the summer league. Now, for me, I don't look at James Bouknight and say, okay, you're a selfish player. I don't want you on the team. I think this was just a situation where you got to look at it like this. This is a very young player who does have a score first mentality, who did come to a situation where his draft stock kind of put him in a position to be on a team where he's not really ever going to be able to break out as the star guard. And that's not exactly the circumstance that he was hoping to find himself in this league. This is a leading guard prospect. This is somebody who is very, very athletic, a 3-level scorer, as I said, finisher in contact, score first. He shot 77% from the free throw line, so that's good. 44 from the field. Very good driving the ball. Now, he did not shoot a good percentage from three, 29% in college, but the look and the make for him to be a better shooter is there. He does have solid form, so we don't think that's going to continue at all. But one thing that you love about him is he's a shot creator, a space creator, somebody who can use his feet, and his skill set is that of somebody who can do a lot of things for himself. Definitely somebody who you could see stringing together 10, 11, 12 points, being a 20-point scorer in this league at some point. He's also got some defensive ability that you like, upside in that regard. Let's see. Known for hesitation moves, if anything. Very good ball handler in that regard. Has a quick first step, that kind of thing. Very, very good ball handler. Has some good ability there. So they didn't give you in the video that I watched. They did not have a arm length for him, but we do have that he's 6'5" in height. So it's a pretty solid shooting guard's height. You know what I mean? He'll put on some weight. He's a bit of a slight guy, but that'll come with time. So in my opinion, Bouknight is going to have to settle in to where he's at. You know what I mean? It's outside of his control. I'm going to always be behind LaMelo Ball on this roster, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't make your value out of it. Why? The person you need to talk to is right next to you. Terry Rozier will tell you exactly how to handle this situation. So if anything, I would just hope that he and Terry Rozier can start to get close, because I think that Terry's has the type of pass and the type of story line through his NBA that can kind of help him through this situation, because that's exactly the position that he found himself in this league, where he was drafted to a team where he was just no way he was going to be able to usurp the person in front of him. Just no way. And the person in front of that person, he wasn't going to usurp either. So it was like, this is the exact person you want to talk to. And to a point, it's one of those situations where your hopes is to play as much as you can with as little minutes or whatever minutes you get. It could be a lot of minutes at some point. But you do the most that you can with the intention of hopefully either being chosen by this roster or being moved to a situation that will allow you to spread your wings. Because at this point in time, just like many other guards that were drafted into these type of situations, we know that their upside is not what their role is about to be. Now, this is a very unfortunate situation in theory, because if the player is too good, in this situation, and he gets moved from the team he was drafted. Of course, he'll never be eligible for the Supermax. I don't know who's eligible or who's not as it pertains to prospects being this young. It's just like a guy could develop into that. He could go the other way. You just don't know. But when a guy's drafted this high, you want to leave everything on the table. So I know this is a frustrating situation, but I would just encourage him to be patient and to just play his game. Play his game. You are not a pass first player. You can create for others, but that's not your game. And let yourself be okay with the criticism that comes with that in this situation, because that's what ultimately it comes down to. People are going to be looking, in some cases, for him to be jealous of Melo already. They're already trying to create that narrative. So I would just say fight that with every bit you can in whatever way you can, because at the end of the day, this is the start of your career, and you don't want nobody writing that narrative this soon about you, and then you playing into it by not having good energy about yourself on the team. So that's what I gotta say. That's really it in regards to that. I'm a believer in James Bouknight. I think he's gonna turn into a phenomenal player at some point. I really do. The upside is there from what I've seen in these highlights and the previous highlights that I did some homework on him. So that's why I'm speaking this much about him, is because I just hate the situation he finds himself in, and I think it's about to get a bad rap if he continues to struggle and be frustrated in that process. So rooting for James Bouknight. I'd love to see him get into a better situation, honestly, right away. And if Michael has it in his heart to trade him now, I think it would be a good idea, because you have too many players to pay. His upside is too high for the role that you have for him, and ultimately you could probably get more for him now than you're about to get for him when you let him play this role for a whole season. That's what I know. But let it be what it is. All right. Because ultimately, if you believe in the player, it really doesn't matter. You keep him regardless of what his short-term value may end up being, for which he may be one of those prospects where you say you don't care. Just hold on to him. So I wouldn't be against that either. To be honest with you, I'm trying to find my sheet, because I know there's another name here that I've written down, and Kai Jones is that name. This dude, another one of those players that I did not know was as good as he is, because I didn't do homework on him, because he was supposed to be a middle-of-the-pack draft pick, and I just, didn't realize how important these middle-of-the-pack guys would be in the grand scheme of things coming into this season. This is a far more important draft class than any of the ones that I've seen maybe in recent memory, because there's so many talented guys, including the one that I'm speaking of here. So this is what it is. Kai Jones, 19th pick in the draft. From Texas, 6'11", 7'1" wingspan, shoots 38% from three. That's close to 40. We know that 40 is the benchmark for trying to figure out if a guy can shoot or not. If he can shoot 40, he can shoot. 38, he can shoot. Definitely a dunker, man. We talk about a dunker, we're talking about a guy who has supreme explosiveness, fantastic patience in his footwork in terms of in the paint. He will pump fake you, Euro step you, drop step you, all of those different types of step moves in the paint. He has that out the gate. This is a very talented paint playing dunker. Not to be mistaken with great footwork in other areas, because they said that his footwork, his balance isn't where it needs to be. But I'm telling you, in the paint, you're talking about a guy who can cut to the basket, be elusive against defensive players who are in the paint, and slam over them. That's what you're looking at. A guy with a very long wingspan, 7'1", and he uses all of his explosiveness and all of his height in each and every one of the plays that I've seen. This is a very, very explosive athlete. We talk about guys like Jonathan Kuminga. Kai Jones is like that. I don't see too much difference in them at all in terms of their explosiveness in the paint. They both have that stuff. They both have that Euro step, the ability to get past people. They both have it. So I'm super excited about Kai Jones. I understand him to be a beast out the gate. 58% field goal shooting. You see what I'm saying? I mean, he dunks everything. Very, very good offensive rebounding dunker, as you'd imagine. Offensive rebounding is one of his things, so you definitely look to him to help them on the boards. Defensive versatility. He can guard all 5 positions from what they said. All 5 positions. He's very, very comfortable guarding all of them. Let's see. It says defensive versatility, good in transition cutting, as I said. Offensive rebounding, as I said. Good interior footwork. already mentioned, and he has a fadeaway shot. This is another thing that he has in his arsenal. Some guys, you come in and you're like, okay, back to the basket, that, Keem Olajuwon, dream shake, turnaround stuff. Not too many people have that in their game these days that are big guys. Not like they used to. Not like Dirk. And this guy has that. He has that ability. He has that as one of his go-to moves to where if he has his back to you, he can fade. And since he's 6'11", 7'1", you're going to have a very, very difficult time guarding this man's shot if you're not as long and tall as he is. So as he continues to grow, health permitting, I don't see a whole lot of room for him not to be very, very, very good. I'm saying very, very, very good is in a couple all-star appearances. This is a real player. Kai Jones. And the Charlotte Hornets have him, which means he's a weapon for LaMelo Ball. There's not too many players out there that's going to be better at getting athletic players the ball. And when you consider they already have a bunch of athletic bigs, adding this guy to it makes them deadly as they come. This is a very, very good Eastern Conference team because of the fact that they have so much athleticism. And then you look over to your right and you see the poise of a guy like Gordon Hayward and the poise of a guy like Terry Rozier that's going to provide veteran leadership in the scoring column. Meaning, if the youngsters aren't hitting shots, those two big-time guys are going to hit them. And that makes them, in my opinion, a playoff caliber basketball team. I just don't know if I saw that before I realized Kai Jones was as good and as talented, particularly blocking shots. I don't think I mentioned that, but he's a shot blocker with excellent timing. But as I'm sure you would imagine with him having a 7'1" wingspan being 6'11". But this guy is definitely somebody who's going to help them defensively and offensively. And if push comes to shove, you cannot leave him alone. He's got too much speed. He's got too much ability shooting the ball. So the floor is way up, honestly, for this kid. Even if he doesn't develop into anything at all, he's already Marvin Bagley. Like literally, he's already Marvin Bagley. I think there will be 19 teams that will wonder why they didn't take Kai Jones when it's all over with. But honestly, this is just one of those drafts. I think this is one of those drafts where at different points over the next 16 years, we're going to say who the best player of this draft is going to be. In 3 years, it'll be one guy. 6 years, it'll be another guy. 8 years, it'll be another guy. 12 years, it'll be another guy. I think it's going to be that kind of thing because I see so much versatility and talent and length in this draft, shooting, everything you would ever want, playmaking, unselfishness, everything you would ever want is in this draft. And that is basically what sums up what I have to say. I just really, really am excited about the athleticism of this entire Charlotte Hornets team. That's what they stand out in regards to. When you have a player like, Melo Ball, all these other guys, including James Bouknight, are going to be better for it. Now, there are some other names on here that I didn't mention. I didn't do homework on some of these guys. But here they are. Nick Richards, Wes Iwundu. Those are two names, and I know there are some rookies as well. J.T. Thor, who they picked 37th out of Auburn. Arnaldus Kolboka, that they took 55th in this year's draft. Excuse me. Now, J.T. Thor was a power forward. This guy here, Arnold Das, is a small forward. DJ Carton didn't get his position for some reason, but he's undrafted out of Ohio. They picked him up after the draft. And, of course, Bouknight is from UConn, and he's the 11th pick, if I did not mention that. Bouknight 11. So, that's the team, man. That's what it is. Mitch Kupchak has done a very good job as putting this team together, in my opinion. I thought the Gordon Hayward contract was a bit iffy back in the day, but now I've seen how he's played it out. As long as he stays healthy, you're never going to feel bad about having him on your team. Never. I can tell you that right now. I've seen enough to know that he's the exact type of star that you want in this situation. So, yeah. P.J. Washington, Terry Rowe, Kelly Oubre, Miles Bridges. I'm telling you, I see this team making the playoffs. I do. Now, I don't know if they're going to be a play-in team or they're going to get a little further up. It's going to be about who can stay the healthiest, who can avoid the COVID protocol. All of that will determine the Eastern Conference. There are about 12 teams that could all be in the play-in tournament this year, maybe more than that. So there's no guarantee that they don't necessarily find themselves in that position. But as far as them being out of that, that would be a huge disappointment. That would be a complete and utter failure, and I would be worried about the coach's job if he can't put this team together in terms of being healthy, if they can't get the most out of this roster, because it's too much talent. Like, they are far deeper than one would expect a Charlotte Hornets team to be. And the pieces should fit. That's the thing. You have facilitation down there. So if he's, for example, James Bouknight, he should never be on the floor without either Mason Plumlee or Melo. He should always be on the floor with a facilitator. I feel the same way about Terry Rowe. Like, they have players who are going to be in better cohesive circumstances than maybe they've been in the past because of the presence of LaMelo Ball year 2 and because of Mason Plumlee once again. So I just see so much potential for this roster. If their players all come together, they have enough of just about everything to really get it going. They have killers on this team at the guard spot, 3 of them actually in Melo, Bouknight, and Terry Rozier. Those are certified killers. I just want to say that. I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 of these guys hit a game winner at some point. Bouknight is going to look to become one of those type of players. He already has a chip on his shoulder. I want to mention him again because that's the thing. He's a killer, man. He's looking to take your heart out when he develops. Right now, he's just a guy trying to figure out his way. He's going to have to shake off the I hate on Jello narrative. But when he does shake that off in a couple years, don't be surprised if this dude is a real problem. He's a real problem. Scoring the basketball particularly. Explosive. A lot of agility. Takes the game over. One of those guys. Terry Rozier, the same thing. So I'm like, yo, it's gonna be an interesting Charlotte Hornet year. I just want to let everybody know that I'm excited about this team, low key. Anyway, that's what I got. My name is BDF44. I thank y'all for watching, and I'm out.